G'day there guys, it's your Aussie Hubby Markee, back at it again with another r/EntitledParents video. Now if you love me as much as I love you, then you know what to do. I want you to mosey on over to that old like button and tackle it like Crocodile Dundee. Maybe even chuck an Aussie flag down in the comments. Now with that said, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn on the barbie, and get ready for some bloody Karens. Now our first post is by user Hickatul, titled "Mum's new boyfriend starts acting as if he would be my dad, and at first made her back him through smart lies, till he overplayed his hand big time. Satisfying karma at the end." Let me first give you some background so you get where people are coming from. My father has left a few years prior, my mum bought a small house from the money from the divorce, and a few months after has gotten herself a boyfriend. At first I was truly happy she had moved on, but soon I realized she had fallen for some real piece of crap. Now you need to understand, my father was an alcoholic and a narcissist, so my mum's normal meter was truly broken. Anybody treating her halfway decent must have appeared like a Prince Charming to her. So please do not judge her too harshly for her choice. I don't. Now, he was not only halfway decent, he really treated her well, though he was an a-hole to me. He brought her flowers, went out to eat regularly, etc. But what I realized, and she did not, was that he was a parasite. He had maybe $100 to his name, and his only income as support from the state, a couple $100. Now, I already hear you ask, how did he afford flowers and going out? By living rent-free and having all of his costs paid for till he gets back on his feet. One last thing, as the headline already told you, he soon started to show an immense entitlement towards me. Basically, he said this is his house, so now I have to follow his rules. Of course, I told him that this is my mum's house, not his, and I do not have to do jack crap unless my mum tells me so. He took that really badly, since he had an ego problem, as you probably already guessed. I tried to tell my mum, but she would not believe me since he always acted very nice to me when she was around. But as soon as she was, no, the Cold War started. He pulled a lot of small crap, like demanding in a patronizing voice that I bring him some beer while watching TV with me, while mum was on the loo. When she came back, he told her he had asked me nicely to bring me a beer when I stood up to get something, but I refused, insulted him, and sat back down. So of course she told me to apologize and get him beer again. I tried to explain, but she wouldn't let me, so he kept pulling petty bullcrap to establish dominance. After this whole story, I asked my mum why she would always believe him and not let me explain. Apparently, he had told her I was super jealous that he was in the house, and wanted to get rid of him by trying to make him look bad, so she backed him to show me he is not going anywhere. Time for the main account. I had gone out the night from Friday to Saturday and had come back at 3 AM. My mom was gone over the weekend, and he fudging exploded. How dare I disrespect him like that coming home this late? I told him calmly he does not get to declare a curfew on me, and my mum allows me coming home this late, which is true provided I stay at the house of 3 specific people I am friends with, and whose parents are my mum's friends. He flipped out even more and called me a dirty liar. He then gave me the classic, "As long as you put my legs under his table," and me being a smartass of course answered, "This is my mum's and my house. You are a guest here." He screamed at me that he's going to kick me out of the house and I will not be allowed back till my mum returns. I screamed back he cannot do that since this is not his house. I threatened to call my mum. He, emboldened by her backing him up all the time, told me to do just that. But I better not lie to her and tell her what is actually happening. I put her on speaker and told her, "He is trying to kick me out of the house till you come back Monday." It was Saturday. She did not believe me, and told me to put him on the line. So he started by telling her I disrespected him as the man of the house by coming home so late, and lying to him about this being okay when I stay at a friend's house, and that I need to learn to respect him. So it is up to him how he disciplines me, since she is not there. Then he lied and said he told me to be home by 1 AM. For the first time, he let his mask slip, and she picked up on it right away. She says, "So let me get this straight. I allow my son to be out till 3, but you think you get to overrule my decision on my son, and now you think you get to kick my son out of his house?" He realized he screwed up. He tried to get her to take his side, but only dug his hole deeper. He says, well, he keeps not respecting me in my own house. If you let him win now, he will never respect me. And you think the right punishment for disrespect is to kick him out for 2 days? Yes, finally you get it. I knew you would come around. Well, he did nothing wrong, since he was allowed to go out that long. You have no right just to overrule my decisions on my son. But I am not done. Apparently, you think the right punishment for your disrespect is to kick you out till midday. But I only have $100. This is not fair. Where am I supposed to go? I am sure my son had even less money, and you did not give a crap. You've got 30 minutes to leave. I tell the neighbor to check. If you are still here in half an hour, he will call the police and have you trespassed. When I come home Monday, we will talk. I am such an idiot that I kept believing you over my son. Once Mum came home, I told her how he kept pulling this bullcrap on me, and she was so sorry she kept backing him up. I had tried to tell her many times he treated me exactly like my father did when she was not around. One major reason for the divorce. But since he treated her so differently and acted so differently than my father, she believed him that I was jealous and tried to get rid of him. But when she heard him say these words my father said so many times, "You owe me respect since you live in my house," she suddenly realized I was telling the truth all along, while he was the liar. This is why she got furious so fast. She never realized how badly he really treated me and how entitled he acted since he had hidden it so well before. But when he started to talk about deserving respect in his own house, something my father kept saying, from me, a house he did not put a penny into but was somehow his. Even worse was thinking he could overrule her on her own son. My father kept overruling her decisions. So she finally saw through him and got all the evidence she needed. I was telling the truth all along. They broke up that Monday. He never even got back into the house. They met for a coffee and she demanded her keys back. Originally, she wanted to give him a month, but when she entered the bar they met at, he right away started to scream at her how dare she kick him out of the house like this, and that now he would never get the respect from me he is entitled to. So she told him she is only here to ask for her keys back and that they are through. P.S. I did not know if this belonged here or in Entitled People. It fits for both, so I posted in both. Alright, and our next post is by user Sheep Queen, titled, "I don't care what you do to your body. I don't want you making us look bad to your therapist." So this is a story that I thought I'd tell. I've posted about my father and stepmother before. This time I figured I'd pick a highlight from when I was 16 going on 17. Please keep in mind that I've blocked a lot out reflexively, so I'll be paraphrasing as best I can. The title itself are quotes I remember as clearly as day though. It all started with my self-harming. I don't remember when it began, but it started after my grades started going down. My stepmother, father, and I would have constant screaming matches, or we would argue over my grades, leaving me to dissolve into tears. Many a night I spent crying myself to sleep or self-harming to get rid of the feeling of being a disappointment to them. I remembered when I finally told my stepmother about my self-harm. At first she asked me something along the lines of, "Do you want to go to a mental hospital?" Yeah, that scared me, so I said no. We had argued about it after, to which she finally said, "I don't care what you do to your body." Somewhere in this time, I had talked to my dad about possibly moving in with my grandparents to finish my last 2 years of high school, which would give me a calmer environment to focus on my studies and to improve myself away from a toxic environment. My father had said no, saying at first to the idea of counseling that you don't need someone to solve your problems for you. Not even a month later, my then best friend got the school guidance counselor involved over my self-harm, and she sat down with my mother, father, and stepmother to show them that I needed help for my depression. He took me to get evaluated by the county in order to find out which fit me better, being put on suicide watch or being inducted to therapy through the county mental health. They deemed that I would go to see a counselor after showing her where I did the self-harming, calling me brave for seeking help. I had wanted to improve my life and have a better future. After my first or second therapy session, my stepmother asked me what I had talked to my therapist about. I declined to tell her, saying that I wasn't comfortable discussing it yet. She got angry and offended, saying, "You're probably making us look like bad parents to her." It was clear she didn't want to respect my privacy. After a few more sessions, my father and stepmother complained that my sessions cost too much money, around $126 a session or so, and told me I'd have to pay half if I wanted to keep going. They forced me to agree, as by then I was 17 and I needed to be responsible for myself. I managed to pay half in one session before I had to stop going. Years later, I've got no contact with them, for the better. I wish this had a better ending, but sometimes entitled parents win. It's not always a happy ending. Alright, and our next post is by user Taipan821, titled Entitled Parents vs Firefighters. Another story from several years ago. Another bushfire, another community at risk. The plan is simple. Start a backburn along the back fences of the community to create a fire break and to contain the fire. The wind is blowing towards the community, so the backburn will be going against the wind. Good conditions. So we start lighting up the bush. 90% of the residents pit up with the smoke and either close windows and doors or come up and talk to us over the fence, asking if they can do anything. Now, I will take this time to mention that we were full-face respirators to protect our lungs from the smoke. We can barely talk out of them, and when you are next to a running pump, you can barely hear anything. So back to the story. We are walking along and pause at a house to monitor the burn. There is quite a fuel load, so we want to make sure it is burnt. Don't notice anything until we see a resident trying to use our second hose line. What? A quick discussion ensues. This mother had come out to inform us that the smoke was affecting her kid. Okay, this happens, so what? She had come out to demand that we put out the fire we were lighting, and when we ignored her, she decided to do it herself. A quick apology, it's noisy, we didn't hear you. She is understanding, but still insists that we put out the fire or give her kid one of our masks. No, I am not going to affect my health for your kid. Also, he hasn't done the course. We advise her to close the windows and doors, but we are going to burn to protect her house. This is where she demands to see our commander, who at this point in time is hiding in the cab. He gets out, walks up to her, and issues an on-the-spot fine for obstruction of an emergency service. Let's just say for a while after the incident, the bush behind her property was burnt quite regularly. After all, we have to reduce the hazard to the community. Alright, and our next post is by user Imaginary-Broccoli6. Titled, Entitled Family Aunt Desecrates a Family Grave to Obtain a Priceless Family Heirloom for Herself. Yes, the title is very real, and I cannot wait to tell you what happened this here. And in case this question comes up, the family is on my father's side, my grandmother's mother. So several months ago, before the lockdown occurred, my great-grandmother, GGM, passed away from old age. She was 108. In the early life, she worked as a jeweler. She made beautiful jewelry for the entire village she worked in. Her most prized jewelry was a rare opal ring she kept with her at all times. It is extremely valuable and she never ever takes it off unless it's for cooking or bathing. EFA was always jealous of the ring because she keeps saying, "I never have nice things," just like her family, even though her background comes from a pretty wealthy family. Her children at the time were already back with her after they spent a few months in an orphanage until such time she was fit to be a mother again. Her children are the most criminally insane pieces of crap you will ever meet. They have no sense of what belongs to who, and would simply take and take and take. One time, they took my phone and got angry because they couldn't unlock it, which is a story for another day. Anyways, back to my great-grandmother. I was very, very close to GGM, as she was always telling me her stories about finding certain jewels during her many, many travels. Her family was poor, but that didn't stop her when she grew up. She basically helped them out of the poor side with her skills. During the will reading and instructional works for the funeral, my great-grandmother said that she specifically be buried with the opal ring. Any of the other jewels, on the other hand, went to me. EFA did not like this. She demanded that great-grandmother give her the opal ring, at least as she deserves since she is part of the family, even though genetically she isn't. The will stated that any requests will be immediately denied, as great-grandma spent years to make sure everyone got a fair deal on the will. I was most surprised by her generosity, since she hardly trusted anyone in handling her large collection. By the way, she had like 150 different jewels. EFA was warned by her lawyer that she would get nothing if she ever made a fuss. Which, by the way, she did get her watch, which she didn't know was worth like 50,000 euros. EFA got furious that she just got a stupid old watch, while everyone else got something way better than her. Not true. My uncle got her car, which hasn't started for 20 years. EFA stormed out with her kids and husband, my uncle that got the car, and never showed up until the funeral. It was a simple funeral, just talking about how she was in the past. Her crazy antics, like that time she accidentally set her house on fire. Don't leave the grease pot nearby, kids. And of course her many travels in her youth to many countries to make her precious jewels. Said goodbye to her, and so on. She was buried in our large estate of all our families buried. That was right? Wrong. EFA and her family, including my uncle, wanted to stay with us for a while as we were still grieving. She gave a crap about that except for uncle. So we agreed to have them stay with us just for a few days. On the second day, I was making myself a drink when I noticed EFA cleaning something with many cleaning products. I said, "EFA, what are you doing?" "Oh, hi OP, this ring is amazing on me, right?" "Where did you get that ring?" "Oh, from GGM, of course. I talked with her lawyer, and he couldn't bear to see that gone, so he gave it to me." "I don't believe you for a second. Tell me where you got that ring, or I'm telling Uncle." "I don't know what you're talking about. I got this ring fair and square." "Alright, I believe you." And I left the room. I went outside just to think what to do. Go to the police or go to my grandma and the lawyer. So I called the lawyer and told her what happened. "Are you sure you saw GGM's opal ring?" "Yes, I'm positive." "Alright, I'm gonna call the police. See me at the estate." So I got in my car and drove straight there. What we saw was gruesome. Dirt everywhere and broken stones, and GGM's coffin halfway open with her ring and the finger missing. I can't tell you how much of a gruesome sight this was. Like, I blinked many times thinking it wasn't real, but it was. I was sick in my stomach of how much someone would go for just for a stupid ring. Like, I get you're angry bitch, but don't go starting to desecrate a family gravesite. I called my uncle and told him what had happened. He also couldn't believe it. He was also wondering whether to call the cops or not after seeing the opal ring on EFA's finger. The police came and arrested EFA for grave robbing, misdemeanor, and desecration of a family gravesite, theft, and breaking and entering. I did not know there was such a thing as grave robbing or desecration of a family gravesite, but apparently it's a thing. The extended family got light of what happened, and practically shunned EFA before her sentencing, and due to the severity of the crime, the court was done rather quickly without a jury. EFA admitted that the children played part in it as well, although they had no clue that their so-called treasure hunt was to steal a family heirloom. I didn't believe that for a second. They see a body, yet they continue to steal from it. Without a heartbeat, the judge sentences her to 3.5 years in prison, should be more, and 4 years probation. As well as her children being taken away again, she was also fined 25,000 euros for damages in the estate. Since she hasn't done anything to the ring, that was a short sentence, only 6 months. But because she practically cut a finger off a dead body, that kinda gave 3 more years. Fortunately, Uncle couldn't take care of the kids because biologically, they are not his kids. Previous marriage of EFA, and financially he wasn't stable enough to take care of all 3 of them. EFA pleaded with the judge to reduce the sentence but was immediately denied, saying that this has shed light on her very selfish behavior. Despite being a good know-it-all POS, she has had trouble in her youth with theft of such similar crimes. So while she is in prison, she will also be investigated. Only just 2 weeks ago, everything was finalized with her. I was contemplating whether to post this or not. After she was arrested, we went no contact with her. The children have been put with a distant relative of EFA's in another country. Uncle went back home taking care of things to move back to our town. He is better now that she is gone. I am sure some of you will ask, what did I do with the jewels that I inherited? I put it in a private safety box in the bank so if ever I need some cash, I could sell the jewels to jewel shops or auctions, and considering there are 150 of them, I won't be having an issue. Edit, my family on my father's side is not near rich, but we have close ties with many people. We are like a mafia, but friendly-ish. My great-grandmother, despite her wealth, was a very kind-hearted woman and nowhere near a description of an old crone. She was willing to help anyone if you asked her nicely. Friend, family, friend of a friend, family of another family, the list goes on. I still mourn her death, but she lived an amazing life. Oh, that was a nice one. Anyway guys, on to our next post by user This One Knows Things. Titled, Entitled Mother Yells at Me for Drinking on My Own Porch. I get that quarantine has everyone on edge, but holy crap. So this happened yesterday. It was really nice out, so I thought I'd take a break from writing all the papers to sit out on my porch with a nice glass of wine. Since I live on the first floor of the complex, I have a small green patch where I have a bird feeder set up and some flowers. Past that is the public sidewalk, and there are no fences, so it's all pretty open. I take a chair out the sliding glass door onto the patio/porch. I forget the difference. Leave the screen door closed so my cat can get a bit of the outdoor air, and plop down and pour myself a glass of Cabernet. At that point in the day, the sunlight was right on my porch, so my cats were laying in the sunbeams right behind me. As I'm just watching the day go by, seeing the occasional dog on the walk, or people just taking a stroll, a little kid, about 5 or so, comes up into my view, trying to jump from sidewalk square to square. I hear the mum somewhere out of my line of sight say, "Don't go too far ahead." So he stops where he is and looks around. He sees me and my cat's in behind the screen. "Look mum," he says, "those kitties are the same colour as S'more." I guess his cat is also a calico. By this point, the mum catches up and glances in my direction to see what he's pointing at. "Oh yeah," she says. Then she looks over to me and her tone changes quickly. "What the hell are you doing?" "Me?" I say, a bit thrown back. "Yes you, what do you think you're doing? You can't drink here, there are student dorms." These are actually just apartments unaffiliated with the university, but since they're across from campus, pretty much only students live here, so many thinks it's another dorm. "I'm over 21. "No you're not, these are student dorms." I guess she forgot that students can also be over 21. "I'm pretty sure I'm over 21. "Don't you talk back to me? Get rid of that drink right now, you can't drink in public." I guess she decided to switch gears on how to get me to get rid of my drink. So she starts walking towards me. Her kid comes too, I guess wanting a closer look at the cats. "Lady, I'm on my porch. I can drink wine if I want." She clearly didn't like me talking back, and she got angry. "I said get rid of that drink." She continues to approach, yelling at me like I'm her kid, and I won't put my toys away. By that point, the kid was on my porch looking at my cats through the porch screen. No, and I take a sip. "Get rid of it or I'm taking it." By this point, she's right in front of me, face red, hands on her hips, looming over me like that crap's gonna work on a 26-year-old. "No, now get off my porch," I said, standing up with my voice raised. By then, the cats had run off and the boy was bummed. We continue to stare each other down. I'm on my own porch, I'm not hurting anyone, and I'm 26. I'll drink on my porch if I want. I take another swig in front of her. Entitled Mother then smacks the wine out of my hand, and it nearly hits her kid as it shatters on the floor. "What the hell, lady?" "I told you to get rid of that drink," she yells, not at all worried that her kid could have gotten hit. "Screw you." I shoved her and tried to pick up the big pieces so her kid didn't get cut. He was wearing sandals after all. Her kid runs off back to the sidewalk. "How dare you push me? How dare you destroy my property? Get the hell off of my porch or—" I started waving around the broken glass pieces and she took that as a threat. "Are you threatening me?" I actually wasn't. I just get expressive with my hands when I'm mad, and I happened to have the broken glass in them. But by this point, I'm fed up with this bitch. I'm like, "Yes, now get the hell off my property." By this point, we had attracted a couple of onlookers, which Entitled Mother finally noticed. She looked around and saw a couple on the sidewalk gawking at her, as well as my neighbor sitting on his porch nearby. She looks around, her face, which was red with anger, was now red with embarrassment. She huffs and puffs and spins around, grabbing her kid's hand, and speed walks away from all of us as fast as she can. My neighbor asked if I was okay, and I said I was fine, just annoyed. I swept up the broken glass, went back inside and poured another glass, and watched some JoJo to get things off my mind. What a weird beer. Edit, wow, thanks for the 1k upvotes, even though I'm a crap Hammond user because I spilled the wine. Also, proper TLDR. Karen approaches. Oh, you're approaching me? Instead of running away, you're coming right to me? I can't knock that wine out of your hand without getting closer. Oh ho, then come as close as you like. And I punched Entitled Mother into space. The end. Wasn't that epic, guys? I don't watch JoJo, so I don't know the character voices. I'm sorry, you anime fans. It really do be like that, though. Anyway, boys and girls, we're on to our next post by user Love Monster, titled, Bitter entitled neighbor tries to seek revenge on my elderly friend. Fails every time. So I was going to post this ages ago, but I'm in the process of moving during the pandemic, so, This is not my story, but a friend of mine, who we will call Hilda. Hilda and I would meet every morning with a group of owners at the dog park, before self-isolation was in effect. Now, there's not a lot of details as Hilda is a straight-to-the-point kind of storyteller, and this happened a good few years ago. So Hilda is an elderly widow, and she lives alone, but has 2 gorgeous German shepherds whom are very well trained. They don't bark, they are good listeners, and can even walk off-leash with no fear of running too far away. She had a next-door neighbor, Bob, who is of similar age and lived with his wife. Bob is our entitled parent/grandparent. Now, since Hilda's dogs are so well behaved, the local postmen have no issues with them, and would even give them a quick pat. During one of her walks with the dogs, Hilda walked past Bob's house and offered a wave, but Bob just looked at her. Not too long after they got home from their walk, Hilda was greeted by a police officer at her door. PO is officer, H is Hilda. He says, "Good afternoon, how are you today?" "Good, thank you, can I help you?" "We got an anonymous tip about your dogs acting aggressively towards the postmen and your neighbors." "That can't be right. Are you sure they're my dogs?" "You own 2 German shepherds, right? May I see them?" "You mean these dogs?" Hilda called her 2 boys over, who then proceeded to greet the officer with tail wags and happy derpy faces. She even showed him how well trained they were. The officer shook his head, told her not to worry about it and to have a good night. Hilda figured out Bob phoned in the bogus tip when she realized he was the only one in the neighborhood who saw her with the dogs. Now, I don't know how long it was since that incident, but Hilda found meat in her backyard. Spoiled, rotten meat. Of course, dogs can eat raw or old meat, but I'm pretty sure meat with green discoloration isn't good for them. Hilda caught Bob's grandchildren throwing the meat over the fence, with his wife providing it. She didn't blame the kids as they were young and probably thought it was a game, but she called the non-emergency police line and explained the situation, including the previous incident. Bob and his wife were only let off with a warning and a fine, as I guess it was considered either littering or destruction of property. I'm not sure. The final incident that wrapped everything up in a nice big bow was when Bob went on a full Jack Nicholson screaming rant in the middle of the street in front of Hilda's house. I wish I could tell you what he said, but not even Hilda knew what he was on about, as she just called the police as Bob was making threats and threatening gestures towards her house. Bob resisted arrest but was eventually taken away. After that, Hilda didn't know what happened to Bob and his wife. They just stopped living next door. She still was baffled why they targeted her until a mutual friend of Hilda and Bob mentioned something that jogged her memory. Bob and Hilda met each other way before they became neighbors. He had actually asked her out on a date, but she wasn't interested 30 years ago. This man got married, had children, had grandchildren, but needed to seek some sort of revenge on the woman who turned him down 30 years ago, whilst Hilda did all the same but didn't even remember who he was. I love Hilda. And I love Hilda too. What an absolute sweetheart and a gem. We don't deserve her. Alright, boys and girls, we're on to our possibly last story, I'm not sure, by user Daxarian, titled, Entitled Aunts Wants to Decide Whom I'll Get Married to. OP stands up for himself for the first time. Hi. This is my first post out here, and hence I apologize if I am doing it wrong. The characters of the story are OP, I, the all-knowing OP. Entitled Aunt 1, wife of my mum's oldest brother. Entitled Aunt 2, wife of my mum's older brother. C1, entitled Auntie 1's married daughter, my oldest cousin. And my mum, my mother, who is too sweet to say anything against anyone to their face. So, a while back, I decided to introduce my girlfriend to my family, and started having a mature discussion about me wanting to marry her and seeking their blessing. The challenge was that she was from a different religion. So dead. This was during a long weekend associated with a festival, and my extended family had gathered around at my grandmother's place. Things were going well, and I just pulled into the wedding of my older cousin to the discussion, and soon the conversation came to where I wanted it to come to. My wedding. Hooray! But boy, I was wrong. I wasn't being asked for an opinion there. Entitled Auntie 1 says, when it comes to OP's wedding, I think we all should have a say as to whom does he marry. Same woman who informed about her daughter's, my first cousin's wedding, just a week before that happened, but wants full control of my wedding. How cute. Yes, he is the only boy in our side. All my cousins on my mum's side are girls, and we have to be 100% involved in his wedding, so it is only fair that we get to decide the girl. This place is India, and arranged marriage is still lurking around here. Help. I just peeped at my sister, and she gave me a sympathetic nod as if to let me know that she understands how horribly all of this is turning out for me. In a while, on the table were names of girls they know that would be a good fit for me, and more garbage. So I decided to man up. I said, actually, I have a girlfriend. I showed them a picture of the girl, and then when they got to know that girl is from a different religion, they lost their crap. My parents were calm. Ticked at me doing this without discussing with them first, but calm. So that was a huge relief. My uncles were calm too. They were asking logical questions like, when do I plan to proceed? Do I have enough savings for a wedding and more stuffs? But not my aunties. They were wailing and whining about how I was going to ruin the family reputation and how I am ruining the name of my parents. How my aunts would have to be ashamed in front of all their family and the rest of the world because I decided to pick my partner. I have always been the nice kid in the family, had zero rebel traits, was always soft-spoken, so telling them about my girlfriend itself was a big move from my part. The next argument from EA1 was how my mother has raised me wrong, and that is what triggered the whole love in me. He is going to set a bad example for the rest of the kids around here. Yes, look at C1, she never fell in love with any man, and quietly married the boy we chose for her. She's so happy. C1 is in an abusive marriage with zero guts to divorce. She never had any guts to stand up for herself, and I am guessing you can figure out why. My mum cried a bit, and that is when I realized that 1, what the hell was I thinking? 2, I need to step up or have all of my cousins give up on their dreams because their brother could not stand up for himself. So I say EA1 and 2, you guys practically raised me when I was very young. I know you love me a lot. EA1, now calming down a bit. Yes, we do. I am 25 now. I would be marrying in another 2 years, and I would probably live to see 65. So how much is that? 40 more years and 38 years of marriage? I hardly get to see you these days. How many days do we see each other? 5 days a year? Let's consider 1 week. So in the next 40 years of my life, you would be seeing me for 40 weeks. And you might get to see my partner even less than that. Let's say 20 weeks. That is just 5 months or less. Can't my loving aunties pretend to like my wife for 140 days for me? And all of this, assuming that you'll be alive to see me turn 60, it would break my heart if you died before I did. That dinner was a very silent affair that day. I've not seen an approach like that to the arranged marriage debate, but hey, it worked in this case. I mean, it sounds like the aunties were rational in the end. And yeah, justice prevailed in the end. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Entitled Parents today. I'm working on getting one of my close friends into YouTube to do these narrations. He's an actor, like I hope myself to be, and When the time comes, I'll share a link to his channel and help promote him. I really hope that I can help him get it off the ground because I want to see him succeed in life. Anyway, guys, tell me what you thought about this Entitled Parents story today. I want to know your thoughts and opinions in the comments. Chuck us a like and a subscribe if you did like it if you're new, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye!